Hey guys, it's Adam with Carnage Comics and Cards again, coming at you with another spoiler video for Bloomburrow. So let's take a look at some cards here. I believe will be commander cards, no question. So the first one is going to be Biza the Bounding Spring. It's a 4/5 for 2 and 2 white pips, and reads: when Biza the Bounding Spring enters, create a treasure token if an opponent controls more lands than you. You gain 4 life if an opponent has more life than you. Create 2/1/1 fish creature tokens if an opponent controls more creatures than you. Draw a card if an opponent has more cards in hand than you. So I see this going a few different ways. I see this as a token deck, and I also see this as a blink deck. So the cards that come to mind first to me are going to be Elish Norn, Mother of Machines. Here's a picture of that, and the reason you would include this is it's going to double your triggers and also is going to stop the triggers of your opponent's stuff. Something else that I believe is going to be a good card with this is Preston the Vanisher. So when you blink this to get double the effect, you're going to create a copy of this, and if you have something like Mirror Box, you could have multiple Bizas of the Bounding Spring. The last card I think of is Philia, Exuberant Shepherd, that blinks and gives a counter to this, and she'll actually become a threat if she's left on the field alone for a long time. So other cards that I think are going to be great, like just blink cards, are Ephemerate and Cloud Shift and Felidar Guardian. So this is just going to allow you to blink this card in more than once and get that effect doubled up. Especially the further behind you are, the better this is going to be, and because you're white, you're going to be behind, right? So also taking advantage of the fact like the opponents have more of something, I think you could put some other cards in there. There's the new card Claim Jumper, which is very similar to another card, Keeper of the Accord. So both of these are going to get you lands. Keeper of the Accord also does the 1/1 thing, except it gives you soldiers. So this is going to help you with token theme. So yeah, that's great. Another card would be Land Tax or Archaeomancer's Map. So both of those look at the number of lands that an opponent has. So you have someone that's ramping out like crazy, you have several of these on the board, there's some redundancy there, but you're just going to be able to match them as they, turns go around the table. So it's going to be a great card. Some other cards that do the 1/1 thing are Sunset Revelry and Linvala the Preserver. So these are another tokens. If you're playing against a token deck, these are going to be some great cards. All right, let's move on to the next card. Our next card here is Camellia the Seed Miser, right? So this is a great addition to Chatterfang, but I also think this is a great card in its own right. Like, I think this is a good commander. Like, I've been really thinking about building this. So what does she do? She has menace. She gives other squirrels menace, and then whenever you sacrifice one or more food, create a 1/1 green squirrel. You can pay 2 forage, a new mechanic, and put a 1/1 on each squirrel you control. To forage, you exile 3 cards from your graveyard or sacrifice a food. So I see this as twofold. Mill decks that do a lot of recursion would work with this, and also food decks. So food has a lot of support from the last couple sets. Wilds of Eldraine had a ton of food cards. And Lord of the Rings, all the halflings from Lord of the Rings had some food mechanic involved. Those I think were more Selesnya, but there are lots of green cards. So you can get cards like Knight of Sweet Revenge. So that's going to create a food when it comes in, and then it's a huge pump for token decks. So if you're doing a bunch of squirrels, obviously you can then, based on the number of foods you have, you can make your squirrels really big and then kind of swing in and hopefully win the game. So the another card that comes to mind is Tough Cookie. So this is going to turn a food into a 4/4, just kind of some added synergy with the food thing. And then finally, a new card from Thunder Junction is Bristle Bud Farmer. For 4, it's a 5/5 and it's got trample. When Bristle Bud Farmer enters the battlefield, you create 2 food tokens, and then whenever he attacks, you can sacrifice a food. If you do, mill 3 cards, and you take a permanent card from among them into your hand. A really underrated card that I don't think is seeing a lot of play that I can't wait to add to this deck. All right, so let's talk about Fell. Okay, I'm going to do a little bit of a rant here. I don't usually talk bad. If you watch any of my videos, I don't really have a lot of complaints, but this one irritates me, and I don't know if it irritates everybody else. Yes, it's just a sorcery, but this is straight up an upgrade to murder. This feels very push, and I think it goes just a little too far. Why is black always getting this kind of treatment? Why is black always getting pushed harder than everything else? Like, it already has the best removal. Why are we getting something that was a traditional 3 cost thing that you could do, and it just gets straight up reduced to 2, and there's no downfall here? I mean, yes, it's a sorcery, but come on, like in standard, this card is just too good. I mean, if they don't stop pushing cards like this, they're just going to ruin the game. So, all right, ran over. Done talking about Fell, but just had to put my piece in there. Let's move on. Mirella, Trash Tactician. So this is something good here. I love this new exert mechanic, and I love the raccoon synergy. I think raccoons, there's something that's very gruel about raccoons. Really excited about doing a raccoon deck here. I don't know initially if there will be enough raccoons to give you more than 4 mana each turn. Maybe you get 2 raccoons counting this one in play, unless you're just building up a straight raccoon deck, but you're going to have to like include most raccoons from this set. So I don't know how that would work, but as we get more raccoons, and I'm guessing raccoons are going to be more of a thing going forward, but we'll just have to see. But that's not the important part of this card. It's the expend 4 and 8 that are going to be fun to build around. So this to me screams ramp deck with big stomping monsters. So the first thing I think of, Virtue of Strength, Just 'Cause Will, and Mana Geyser. So you could do these things to give you a ton of mana, and it's going to allow you to expend 8 pretty easily, and then you're going to get those top 2 cards, and then you can cast those to get payoffs with things like Flaming Tyrannosaurus and Lelia, the Blade Reforged. So those are great payoff cards for casting things from exile. I for sure will be putting this in my Loot the Key to Everything deck. I'll do a video on that at some point for the expend 8, just to give me some more added, impulse draw to get some more payoffs. I have lots of payoff cards like Flaming Tyrannosaur in that deck. Hopefully they come out with more payoffs. Like, that's the one thing I think exile decks are kind of missing, is more payoffs. Like, we're kind of limited to just what's available at the moment. I'd like to have more choices there. So that's an area I'd like to see them develop a little bit further. Okay, so that's Myria, Trash Tactician. Love the new extend mechanic. Next, we're talking about Osteomancer Adept. So I've done a short on this guy. To me, this is going to be in a mill theme deck, and it's going to be a nice option for repeatable recursion. I like that Wizards is doing a lot of these finality counters, so it stops the constant recursion of things. It does hold this card back a bit, though, and prevents it from being played in just every possible mill and recursion deck out there. So, I mean, it's a good thing, but also it's like, okay, is it good enough? I think it's good enough in certain decks, and we'll get to that in a second, but cards that remove counters are going to be really pair really well with this. So things like Nesting Ground, Clock Spinning, or Soul Diviner are a few options that you could do to remove those finality counters. The other option would be to return the card to your hand if it's blocked, something like Cunning Evasion. And then the third option is just to blink it, and it will return without the finality counter. Siren's Ruse is a good example for this. I say Siren's Ruse because this is a great card for Admiral Beckett Brass, right? So since she is already doing the finality counter thing, you can build around removing finality counters, and you could use this creature to just give you an added recursion. So to me, that's how I kind of built. I have a Admiral Brass deck. That's how I built it, is to really work around that fact that I can bring pirates back from my graveyard. So if you can bring them back multiple times, and you can remove, and this is the thing, is that Admiral Brass a lot of times gets removed. So this is just another piece so that you can continue your strategy even when she's not out there. So it's just a redundancy, but it's a good one. And I for sure will be adding this to that deck. All right, so speaking of blinking, let's talk about our next card here. The next card here is Salvation Swan. I think this card is going to be underrated for a while. This card blinks a non-flying creature whenever it or another bird comes into play. When it comes back, it gains flying. So it's 3 and a white pip, it's got the flash, and it's also a 3/3. So flying is a great evasion keyword and helps you get in for damage. Giving a creature flying is a great bonus on this card. However, how hard is it to get to flicker something more than just once? I think it's worth it just to flick it once, but honestly, once it is enough. But obviously, if we can trigger it again, it's going to make it that much better. So, like, what kind of cards are there out there? So let's take a look at some Commander staples and see if this is worth it. So, first one I think of is the new card Avian Interrupter from Thunder Junction. Another one is Birds of Paradise. Third one, Aven Mind Sensor. A very popular card in the Blink theme is going to be Ledger Shredder or Aerial Extortionist or even Shabraz the Sky Shark. So I think I made my point. Like, there are tons of birds out there that are great in Commander, and just putting a handful of them in your deck is going to make this playable. And it's going to make it so that it happens at least probably twice in a game of Commander. And that's I mean, to me that's bonkers. So, but we will see when this comes out how expensive it is and see if it actually lives up to that potential. I, for one, think it will. So I'm going to see if I can't pick up a few of these and sit on them and see what happens, and maybe I can get a couple packs out of it. All right, so what's up next? Next up, we got a card called Storm Catch Mentor. It's haste, prowess, instant sorcery spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. Okay, this is just straight up an upgrade to Goblin Electromancer. If you're playing Goblin Electromancer, you want this card in addition to it, or you're just going to straight up replace it because this version is just better. In my opinion, it's just better. Like, yeah, it takes 1 blue, but let's be honest, like, it's that's if you're playing Goblin Electromancer, most of the time you're going to be in Izzet colors, so it's not that much higher of a bar to clear, and that prowess just makes it so much better. It's going to make it so that it's not just a reducer, but also an attacker in some situations. Okay, so next up we got Sunshine Lynx. It's a 2 and 2 red pips. Players can't gain life. Damage can't be prevented, and when it enters, it deals damage to each player equal to the number of non-basic lands that player controls. So I'm not a CEDH player, but just more casual, and I definitely see myself putting this in most of my red decks, but I also see this possibly being a good CEDH card. It does a lot for 1 card, and it's going to fit into most burn decks really nicely. Things like Osier Axonil, Osier Axonil. Sorry, that's a tough one to say. And another burn deck that's really popular is Immodane the Pyromancer. So both of those decks I think are going to want this. And I think it's a lot of value for what it is, and the art's kind of sick. Look at it. I mean, it's a lynx getting shot by, I assume they're mice, but that's cool. Almost like a nuke going off, like a little bit of mushroom cloud. I don't know. I love the art in this set. This set's got a ton of really cool art. All right, 2 cards left. Next up is Valley Rockcaller. It is 1 and a black pip menace. Whenever Valley Rockcaller attacks, each opponent loses X life and you gain X life, where X is the number of other squirrels, bats, lizards, and rats you control. This is a card that is mostly going to see play in Bloomburrow theme decks and around squirrels, but I could also see this finding a place in rat decks. Commanders like Maronar and Lord Skitter, because of that rats, and you're creating so many rats, it's just going to be a way for them to gain life, which there's usually not a ton of life gain. The only other life gain, I mean, black has a lot of life gain, but those decks don't usually see a lot of it. I think that this and Gray Merchant are probably the 2 best options in a deck like that. So yeah, I see this as more of a typal deck thing, but I see it for squirrels and rats. I don't know that there's any lizards or bat decks out there. I think that's going to be like a Bloomburrow theme. I think this will be good and limited, but I also could see it getting some limited play in Commander for those decks. All right, our last card today is Warren Warleader. So it's got Offspring 2, which means that you get a 1/1 token copy of it if you pay the additional 2, like Kicker, right? So uh, I see this going into a lot of Selesnya decks, actually. Something that has Doubling Season, Anointed Procession, Parallel Lives, stuff like that. Some big hitters. And this could be a great card in any one of those token decks to pump up all your attackers. So basically, if you have Doubling Season and you pay the Offspring, you're going to get 2 of them. So then when you attack, you're going to get +3/+3. So I could see this kind of being a niche card in that situation where you just need some more pump and you don't have enough, or just a different option from what those decks are currently using. And for 4, it's not too terrible. You could actually just play it for the 4 and just use it to create a 1/1 rabbit and just get yourself something on the board. I think this is a really good card, and I think it'll see probably lots of commander play. I don't know exactly how it's going to be utilized right now, but that's how I see it currently. So, all right, well, that's the video today, guys. Thanks for taking the time to check this out. I hope you will check out my other content. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. What are you thinking about the current set? And then like and subscribe. And appreciate you guys. See you in the next one.